I participated in the death of Mr. Lionel Payne, but I could hear that they were fighting. He started to scream for me to come out of the laundry room. When Daryl hit him with the hammer, he didn't knock out. At that point, Daryl told me to take the money and leave.
In this parole hearing, we're going to hear from a woman whose blind loyalty caused her to be involved in a murder. She tells the story, and by the end of this, we'll find out, is it the truth?
This is the matter of LeAnn Jochum, DOC number 521431, date of birth November the 1st of 1985. She's classified as a first felony offender. She has a parole eligibility date of June the 27th of 2024, an adjusted good time date of January the 8th of 2029. She has a full term date of June 28th of 2034. She is currently serving a 30-year sentence on the charge of attempted first-degree murder, having been sentenced on March the 7th of 2007. She received a commutation from Governor Edwards for parole eligibility after serving 20 years.
All right, Ms. Jochum, how old are you?
I am 38 years old,
Okay, and how long have you been in prison on this crime?
19 and a half years.
What was your involvement in the case? Tell me exactly what you've done, and I've read all the rest of it.
I participated in the robbery of Mr. Lionel Payne, and I participated in the death of Mr. Lionel Payne. He wasn't supposed to be home. When we entered the house, I was to look out in the window. Daryl was looking around the house for money or whatnot, valuables. While I was in the laundry room, Mr. Payne wound up arriving home, and I notified Daryl that Mr. Payne was home. I was in the laundry room, and Daryl entered the laundry room, and by this time he had done armed himself with a gun. When Mr. Payne entered the house, I told Daryl now would be a good time to leave, but he told me it was too late for that. So when Mr. Payne entered the house, started to walk to the back room, Daryl chased behind him. I was still in the laundry room, but I could hear that they were fighting. He started to scream for me to come out of the laundry room. At first I didn't, but then I did. And I had armed myself with a hammer. And when I went to the room, the gun was on the floor and they was on a bed and they were fighting. And I was trying to separate them. And then I picked up the gun and I was pointing it at them. I finally got them apart. Daryl took the gun from me and he kept telling Mr. Payne to open a safe, open a safe. Mr. Payne did open a safe. After Mr. Payne opened a safe, Daryl told me he just wanted to knock him out so we could leave with the hammer. Uh, when Daryl hit him with the hammer, he didn't knock out. At that point, Daryl told me to take the money and leave, and I did. When I made it down the front stairs, I heard a gunshot, and I came back in the house. And when I went back in the house, and I went in the room, Mr. Payne was dead. And I'm so sorry for the part I played in that crime.
So did you hit him with the hammer?
Yes, sir, I did during the altercation when they were fighting on the bed. He had kicked me, and I hit him on the leg, and then I dropped the hammer to the floor.
Did you shoot him?
No, sir. No, sir.
Did you hit him with the hammer more than once?
No, sir.
And you claiming you just hit him in the leg?
Yes, sir. When they were fighting on the bed, and I first had went into the room, and they was fighting on the bed, and I was trying to separate them. He had kicked me, and I had hit him on a leg, and I had dropped the hammer on the floor.
Okay, so you reached a plea agreement to testify in this case?
Yes, sir.
Did you know the victim before y'all went?
I knew of him, but I didn't know him personally. I had went his bar on one occasion to use the phone, but I never really had his acquaintance or knew him personally.
Okay, you got the sheriff is opposed. Your family is unopposed. Daughter, can't see my writing, but it's Miss Payne. She is greatly opposed, and her son is also greatly opposed. They claim that you had a terrible upbringing. What part do you think that played in this crime?
I think it played a major role in my relationship with Daryl. Not so much the crime, because I think it was just my relationship with Daryl, because I came from an abusive background with a lot of trauma, sexually, physically, and mentally. And I left home young and I was looking for love. I was looking for attention. I was looking for validation. So I feel like I winded up in this relationship thinking that he was my savior. And I felt like I just owed him so much loyalty because he took me out of a messed up situation when in all in actuality, I just winded up in another abusive situation. But if you don't know what a healthy relationship looks like, how do you know? So I just felt like he loved me, and by him loving me and giving me the validation I needed, I felt like I owed him everything. So when he decided he wanted to do it, my loyalty told me I had to too.
Well, let me ask you this. Now, this is your statement. I changed my statement. I initially blamed Mr. Thompson for shooting Mr. Payne close range in the face when it was in fact Miss Jochum shot herself. So you stated that you shot.
In the beginning, I did state that I shot Mr. Payne, and then I turned around and said that I switched the roles, that he actually did it. But I know in the beginning I made many statements that were untrue. But I'm telling the truth now because I don't owe him nothing. I owe him no loyalty. I owe him no nothing. I only owe it to myself, and I'm telling the truth.
What would you say to the victims if you had a chance to talk to them? Direct your comments to the board.
I would say that I know no matter what I do or say, I can never take away the hurt and pain that I have caused them, that I can never fill the void or the emptiness that I have placed in their hearts. And I know that no matter how many times I say I'm sorry, it's like salt to an open wound. But I am deeply sorry. So sorry for the hurt and pain I have caused y'all.
You know, I look at this several different ways. You've served 66% of your time. You've had great classes, good warden's comments, good community service to the prison. My vote today is if y'all can work it out, that you be granted parole with the special condition that you are not to live in St. Bernard Parish. I don't want her anywhere around that family or the victim.
My vote, I concur as well. When you look at where you've come from to who you are today, because of the rehabilitation program you've done, the good support system you have, completing of your GED and your college degree, your vocational training, and no write-ups in over 6 years. So for those reasons, my vote is to grant, and I'd like to see you give back somehow or another. Do some community service starting about 6 months after you release. You can figure out at least 4 hours a month to give back in some way. Best wishes to you.
You've been granted your parole to the Louisiana Parole Project. Of course, one of the conditions will be that you follow all of their recommendations, you do all of the things that you're supposed to do, and you're not to be allowed to live in either Plaquemine or St. Bernard Parish. Okay? Good luck
Yes,
to you.
sir. Thank you.
4 hours of community service work 6 months after you are released. Good luck to you.
Yeah.
Truth.
Thank you.
We both just froze.
I just-
We both. I had so many thoughts all at the same time that I couldn't say anything.
I feel almost this irrational rage at the way that this our legal counsel is reaching out and holding her hand and smiling that this lady just got out of prison early for, at very minimum, assisting in the murder of someone, but also very likely to have actually been the person to pull the trigger. And yeah, she did 66% of her time, but that's not what she was sentenced to. She didn't do her time. She did time. She did part of her time, and now she gets to go out in the community and, with remorse, but no response. She's not taking responsibility.
What really sticks out to me here is how she's distancing herself from this crime. She says that she participated in, which is kind of a weird way to say this altogether, but participated in the robbery and death. Not robbery and murder, but death. I find that so strange and minimizes what happened. Kind of like, I was there. This other person was there and he ended up dead. Oh, how? And she really doesn't take the responsibility for it.
Yeah, and because she did ultimately recant her initial confession that she actually pulled the trigger, I think that's what you really saw through her entire testimony was geared around pulling back that responsibility and pulling back so that, she's again reminding them, like, I was there, but I wasn't the one that pulled the trigger. And I think that's why she was so careful about what she said.
Parole board has all the facts, and they say that. You hear that in the beginning here. He's like, I've got the facts in front of me, basically. I know the truth. I think she may have a history of lying, and in fact, at one point during her testimony here, she did say that she did lie in the beginning. So she has a history of being dishonest.
And, she admitted that herself too. She did point out that she had this loyalty for this man that she was with, and that's why she took, responsibility for pulling the trigger. But I can't imagine that level of loyalty where you're going to take responsibility for the murder of someone.
Oh my gosh, I know the loyalty thing really got under my skin because loyalty is this positive word. Loyalty is a positive attribute. If you say, I'm a loyal person, so what she did in her mind at the time was surrounded in goodness, even though it was something that was so evil. That blind loyalty could cause her to do something like this. She actually even says that her loyalty told her that she had to do this. It wasn't her choice, it was her loyalty that made her do it. That makes her a danger. She's not making her own choices. She's making it based on blind loyalty. She says at one point that he armed himself with a gun. When he went into that home, when Daryl went into that home, he was already armed. He didn't arm himself at that point.
Unless he found a gun somewhere in the house, but I mean, they didn't say anything about that.
Right. And also, did she bring the hammer? Did she find the hammer in the laundry room? What was the point? And it's so clearly premeditated. They said that he wasn't supposed to be home.
Well, a lot of it, again, is the constant minimization. Well, he wasn't supposed to be home, and we were going through the house, and then, he shows up, and then I told him, hey, we need to leave. Then he's the one that was basically armed himself and decided, let's escalate this.
I hear that her speech a lot, and her talking is that she says wound up, end up, that like these things just sort of happened and that they went with the flow, not that they caused any of it. When they caused every bit of this and they caused a man to lose his life. I think though too how this sounds like such a movie. Like this plays in my mind like a terrible movie, and I really feel for this victim how scary the situation must have been, because the way that she tells it is that he was defending himself and that he was potentially going to harm her.
Something that I realized over time after listening to this a couple of times was how this seems so scripted. There's things that are out of order. So she talks about how she arms herself with a hammer, then she arms herself with a gun, and then she's trying to break them up, and then she gets kicked, and then she hits him with the hammer like it's some kind of excuse, like, well, he kicked me, so I naturally hit him with the hammer while I'm trying to break it up.
Safe.
But I'm also thinking, why would she be holding the gun? And if she's pointing a gun at him, why didn't he stop the fighting at that point? And maybe that's because they found her fingerprints on the gun and she admitted to pulling the trigger. But then it's like, if she's recanting that, then they're going to wonder, well, why are your fingerprints on this gun? Oh, actually was pointing at him when I was trying to break up the fight. And even the way she says that she armed herself with the hammer. If I was in her shoes and I'm talking about this thing that happened in the past, I wouldn't say I armed myself with a hammer. I would say I grabbed a hammer and then I did this. It seems so well scripted to me.
I know it plays like a really horrifying movie, but she was the writer, the director, and the actor. And she's still acting, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. You're the one that broke in the house to steal from him, and you didn't leave when he showed up. You armed yourself with a gun and a hammer.
And we're listening to this story being told by her, and what we're really missing here is the victim's family. We're missing so much of this story because all we're hearing is her side, and we are making some conclusions because that's all we can do, but I don't feel like she's being honest.
Yeah, I really feel like there's something missing to this story, and I wish we had the victim's family speaking out, because maybe we'd have some clarity in that.
I feel like she does feel remorse in this moment. She does feel badly that this happened. She does regret it for a whole host of reasons, but she's not being honest to herself about what happened. She's minimizing it to herself. So she's remorseful to her own version of this story, but not the actual facts. And we're missing that again because we're not hearing from the victim's family. And like you said a little bit ago when we were talking about this, did they even know that this was happening?
We've seen many times where the family said they didn't even know these parole hearings were happening and that they had the ability to speak to them. And that's a crucial thing that we're missing here. Or even from the attorneys that prosecuted her, where are they at? So she felt loyalty because he took her out of a bad situation, and now she's in prison for attempted murder for decades.
But I do get that loyalty. But I do get that she's grateful to this man, that she sees him as a hero, that she doesn't want to go against him in any way, but that's what makes her dangerous to me. We hear of these cases where women will go to great lengths to do whatever will please the man, and those are incredibly dangerous women. I think of Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka and that tragic, horrible crime, and that this is different, but it's that similar thing. It's this loyalty to somebody, and it comes off as love. Like I said, it's surrounded in goodness. She can feel good because she was so loyal. Don't have that blind loyalty. It can be easy to feel that love and that you want to protect this person, that you want to make this person proud of you, that you want to be loyal to this person. But you have to remember that it can go too far and that you can't be blind to that. Like you just said, she really potentially lost her life because of this too, and it was her choice. Wasn't a victim of that. She did have the choice to say no, and that wasn't being disloyal. That was being loyal to herself, and should be.
But also that loyalty evaporated as soon as she was looking at life in prison.
It's true.
She testified against him, and
that's true.
How much time was there between the commission of this crime and her not being, testifying against him?
It was loyalty when she thought she could get away with it, but once she knew she couldn't, you're right, she sang like a bird. That's what she puts as a bar of a healthy relationship, right? Like,
well,
it's that
minimum. She's minimizing everything.
But I also get why they're doing it. In this moment, she's trying to convince these people that she is not guilty of this. So she's trying not only to minimize it to herself, but minimize it to them. Because if she can win that game, every single time, honestly, this feels like a game show to me. Like, are you going to win? Are you going to lose? What are your people going to vote? And you're just trying to say the right thing to get them to believe. You have to hit these points and do these things and show that you're remorseful and that you attended these classes. And now, yay, you get to essentially go to Hollywood or get freedom, right? And that's kind of how this feels. So
it's American Idol with your life hanging in the balance.
She really tells the whole story. They may look at it and go, oh, I don't know if she should be released. That's a delicate balance to play. And I do think she feels remorse. I do think she feels really bad in this moment. In the moment, she really does seem sorry. You can listen to the parole board and hear all the good things she has done and how she has put so much effort into changing. And I really hope she has. But if the circumstances were similar, would she once again choose to do the same thing? And she was sentenced a certain amount of time, and she's getting out a decade early.
What stands out to me too is at the end of these, we don't see the family in this one, but when you see the family, when they speak out and that person's not granted parole, there's never smiles. The family's not smiling and happy that the person's still in prison. At the end, they all look just as upset throughout as they did through the entire process. You can't help but wonder if this is motivating this board to let them out, because, it smiles, they made someone happy, they have changed someone's life for the better, but at the cost of the family, of the victims. So to me, it's like, I think that's such a stark contrast of what it's like when they grant parole versus when they deny it.
Well, for the person who gets the parole, they're getting freedom. And the family, whether that person stays in prison or that person is released, they can never be free. Nothing is ever healed for them. We talk about, and we hear them talk about, the offender, the perpetrator, being healed. The family can't heal. They can't have that missing person in their life back. This isn't an answer for them. It's just, if the person remains in prison, it's less pain, but it's not going to make the pain go away.